Hello everybody, this is Kiran and today we are going to talk about functional and non-functional testing types. So moving forward, let's see what all we have to learn today. What is functional testing? We have discussed previously also that whenever we are doing testing to check the functionality and the core business flow of the software, it is called functional testing. So here we are focusing on the requirement specifications majorly, and we test the total in and out functionality of the system. Now, so basically we are trying to verify what is the expected results, and we are putting inputs and seeing that what is the actual result sets. So this testing involves testing of the user interface, APIs, database, client-server architecture, and the functionality of the application which we are actually testing. Now what actually we do test in the functional testing, we test the mainline functions. So the major functions which have been written for that software is tested properly. We test the basic usability. As a user, if the user is able to use the system properly, is able to navigate through all the important pages, is able to understand the system. So the basic usability of the software is tested when we focus on testing the functional testing. Accessibility. Accessibility means if a particular software is accessible to all the kind of people, all the groups of people. Let's say somebody is having some disability and having certain kind of problems. So are they too able to access the system well enough? So we'll have to check the accessibility of the system also when we are actually testing or doing the functional testing. Now, error conditions, very important. So we need to have proper error messages when we are actually performing some action on the system, and it is supposed to show us an error, whether it is showing us proper messages so that the user is able to take the next steps or next actions properly. So imagine if you're putting in a wrong password and you're not getting a correct error, how would you understand what is the problem going on? So proper error messages, warning pop-ups are very important for a user to understand the system well and to be able to use the system without external guidance. So functionality testing will be overall covering how well the functionalities of the system have been created, so as the users who are actually using the system should be able to use it to the core, should be able to access it properly, should be able to understand what's going on in the system, and without external help should be able to utilize the functionality and the usage of the application. So that is what functional testing will make sure. As testers, as functional tester, we should be thinking like an end user. We should be trying to break the system and use the system and try to perform mistakes and try to raise issues which a common user might do. So that's what functional testing will be focusing towards. So the entire process is about understanding the requirements. Very important. Until and unless you're very well adept with the system, you won't be able to test it and break it. So you have to be having a very core knowledge of the product and should be able to know all the navigations, those of the pages, how the system is reacting to different actions, and what is the outcome and why it is being used, what is the best use of all the available options present in the system. So yeah, so understanding the requirements, very important. Identifying test inputs. Yeah, using the correct set of test data is very important as a very good tester. If you're a good tester, you should be knowing which test data to use so that you can do enough testing and you can be sure that yes, the system is robust. Now imagine you're putting in a phone number and you have put some instead of mobile numbers of 10 digits, you're putting in some 12 numbers and it's accepting maybe in a country where there is only 10 number phones. So there your testing, you have to catch that error and you have to catch that issue. So using the right test data in the right kind of fields trying to break the system is important as a functional tester. You have to know what are the expected results of a particular method, and when you are actually doing it using some test data, what is the actual results. So expected and actual are important. They needs to be compared. Once the comparison gives the same results, then there is a pass test case. If the expected and the actual give you two different results, it's not, you have to raise a bug and make sure that it's being fixed. So here we have discussed all these. Now there is a quick comparison between what is functional and what is non-functional testing. Now to define non-functional testing, in the non-functional testing we are not focusing on the exact business requirements, but we are focusing on non-functional aspects like the speed of the system, the performance, how well the system is performing under different load conditions, the scalability, how much load we can scale it up to, the stability of the system, and aspects like that, which is not actually related to the exact business requirements. So non-functional aspects will be tested in the non-functional testing. Functional testing definition we already have seen. Now, functional testing is executed first, and then actually we'll be doing the non-functional testing. Now, manual testing or automation testing tools can be used for functional testing, and so business requirements are the inputs to the functional testing, because we will be doing the functional testing based on the business requirements. And herein in non-functional testing, it majorly the parameters like performance, the speed, the scalability, these are the inputs to the non-functional testing. Now, functional testing describes what the product does, what is the exact role of the product, and in the non-functional testing it describes how good the product works, how well it is performing. Now, easy to do manual testing in case of functional testing, yeah, and here in non-functional it's better to use a tool. It's tough to do manually. Examples have been listed. In the functional testing we have unit, smoke, sanity, integration, white, black box, user acceptance, regression. So many terms. Now we'll be seeing a diagram which will make this very clear. So that diagram I'll show you so that you don't have ever any confusion about what and where to use different kinds of testing. Non-functional testing, performance testing, load, stress, spike, endurance, volume, penetration, compatibility, migration. So these are all related to the non-functional aspects, and that's why they are called non-functional testing. So here is a quick difference between what is functional and what is non-functional. I think it is very clear now, because in the functional we are actually focusing on the business requirements of the software we are testing. Here we are testing the non-functional aspects, which is like speed, the performance, the scalability. Here there's a list of the types and the names of the functional testing. Here also the list is mentioned, and functional testing will be done before a non-functional, and then business requirement is the input, and here the inputs are performance, load, like the speed, the scalability, and factors like that. And here functional testing basically describes what is the use of the software, and non-functional testing will describe how well the software is performing. Moving forward, guys, we'll talk about some of the testing types. Now, performance testing. So performance testing is an overall term. We do performance testing to find out the speed, scalability, load, endurance, everything. So the overall testing is called performance testing, to check the overall performance of the software. So how well the system is able to react to different load conditions, how the system is behaving, how the system is performing overall, how well is its response time, and everything is tested in performance testing. And there are different, so the focus is to test the speed, determine how quickly it is responding, the client server architecture, how quickly it is responding. Scalability determines maximum user load, how much scalable it is, how much load we can increase and decrease into the system. And stability, of course, how long it can bear a particular amount of load. So stability is equally important to be noticed and measured. Yeah, so that's about what all we do as performance testing, what all is tested when we're actually talking about performance testing. Now, types of performance testing includes different types of testing, which we can use different tools like JMeter, load runner for doing these testing. First and foremost, most popular type of performance testing is load testing. What we do in load testing is, I'll quickly show you a diagram which will make it more clear. So imagine this is a server on which you want to try and test the load, and this is these are the clients who will be hitting on the server. So as a load testing, what you're trying to do, first you'll be applying some 50 users are hitting on the system for the same amount of time. So 50 is the load you're putting onto the server for. So in performance, in load testing, majorly, let's say if we are trying to measure 3 factors, quickly I will explain. So using any tools, let's say JMeter or load runner. So we are measuring 3 factors here. So first is number of users. So number of users on the system. Second is loop count, that those many people are hitting on the server for how many times in amount of time, in how many minutes or seconds. So these are the 3 factors, let's say we consider. So 50 people are hitting on the server once for 1 minute. So that is one load condition, right? There can be different load conditions. Let's say we want 100 people to hit on the server, and we check the behavior of the system. So till here 50, the system is working fine, very good. In 100 it is also working fine, very good. In 500 people also the system is perfectly showing okay results. So we are trying to check the behavior of the system at different load condition in case of load testing. Now imagine you put some 1000 users together on the system, hitting on the system for simultaneously, and the system breaks. So you now know the behavior of the system at different load conditions. So that is load condition when you load testing, when you are actually trying to find out how the system behaves at different load conditions. Similarly, if you are putting in a big amount of load on the system for a long duration of time, so the duration is long, so you are trying to find out the endurance of the system. So that is endurance testing. When the duration, you want to find out, you're putting in a load for a long duration of time. So that is endurance testing. So duration, when it matters, when it is related to the duration, it is basically checking the endurance of the system. This is all load, you're trying to find out the behavior of the system at different load conditions. And endurance is about putting in a heavy load for a longer duration of time. Now, if you're trying to put heavier load on the system deliberately to try to break the system, so if you're trying to put heavier load on the system deliberately, you're trying to find out the threshold of the system, so that's called stress testing. Stress testing is mostly focused on trying to find out the threshold. It's not concerned about the different behavior of the system at different conditions. It is just trying to find out the threshold limit of the system. So you want to find out the break point of the system. So that is called stress testing. And when you put, putting in some load condition and suddenly you put a heavy load, so that is called spike testing. In spike testing, you're trying to put certain heavy load condition on the server to check the behavior of the system. So these are different kind of performance testing which is done on any server to make sure the system is performing well. So load testing will test the server's behavior at different load conditions. Stress testing is about putting on a heavy load on the system, to try to break the system, to try to find out the threshold of the system. Endurance is about putting in a load for a longer duration of time to check how long it can hold. And spike testing is about putting in a sudden load condition so that the system, to check the system behavior at the sudden spike of the load. Volume testing is done to check the behavior of the software at different database volumes. So how it is behaving. And scalability, of course, to check how much scalable the server is, how much load we can vary and increase, and to check the capacity of the server, we'll do scalability testing. So these are the type of performance terms which you should be knowing about, and that's how we can use different tools like JMeter and Load Runner for performing different kinds of performance testing. And these are all non-functional aspects. These are all the they all fall into the category of non-functional testing types. Now let's also understand some concepts of website testing. Whenever we are doing any testing of a website, we must be following we must be performing these set of testing types. That's why it's important to know the list. So here we go. Functionality testing, yes, very important. You have to do functionality testing when actually you are testing any website. You have to do usability testing. Usability is again yet another type of non-functional testing type, wherein we act as end users and try to find out whether the user is able to access the system easily, or how difficult or easy it is for a user to understand a system and use it. Interface, there are different interfaces for which we have to do testing. It is database, application server, and web server testing. So we have to do that. DB testing, database testing. Compatibility with different browsers, different operating systems, and different devices. So we must be doing all types of compatibility testing. Performance, we did talk about it, non-functional aspect. Performance testing is important. Security is yet another non-functional aspect, but is a white box testing type also. So security testing is important on any website. Crowd testing, to make sure that many people are working together and doing the testing to see different, so different people will be doing the testing, so there can be different thought processes and we can come up with more and more issues. So these are the testing types. We'll quickly go through some of them and we'll understand. Usability testing, as I said, it is majorly to focus and test how well the system is used by the user. So it's done by a small group of people, and to make sure there is well navigation throughout the site, the menus, the buttons, the messages, and everything is well defined, so that there is no need of any external help for using the system. The content is also equally important to be tested, about errors and everything, grammatical or any cosmetic issues. So this is about usability testing. Interface testing. So there are three interfaces. So there are three-tier architecture when we know. It is application server, web server, and database server. So we have to make sure that all these interfacing are working well. So in case of application server testing, we have to make sure that the requests are being sent correctly to the databases and the output we are getting are correctly displayed or not. In case of errors, we should make sure that it is not displayed to the front user. It should be sent to the admins only. So we do a proper application server testing. Web server testing will make sure that there is no delay in the request. So whenever there is a client sending a request and there is a processing time involved, and there is the response is sent back, so the response type should be 0 or minimal. It should be very less actually. So web server testing is done, so there should not be any service denial also in between. And database server will to make sure that whatever results we're expecting is actually being shown. So the DB is working perfectly fine, the database is working well enough to make sure the interface testing is done well. So all the application, web server, and database server are tested, so that we are at the end we can say that the entire website testing is done, and we aren't getting any particular kind of issues based on these kind of interfacing. Now tools which we can use for these kind of testing is these: AlertFox and RanoRex. Database testing is about doing data validations from the front end UI and the back end panels. Also, it's a very important that we must be testing DBs using different languages, query languages, whenever we are doing, to make sure that the UI is in sync with the databases. So we'll perform actions, we'll do a database enough of database testing using we can check the pipelines also, we can switch on and off the flags and test that the DB is working fine or not. So it's very important that the updation, select and deletions of data and everything is maintained, and it is working as per the expectations or not, right? And of course the response time needs to be tested, because DB shouldn't be taking a lot of time. There shouldn't be delays in the response. So we have to check that also in case of database testing. Compatibility, yes, it's important that the software which we are testing should be compatible to the browsers we want to test on. So there are primary browsers and secondary browsers as per the client's requirement. So we have to make sure whatever client needs, whatever browsers we need to do the testing, it should be done properly. So if it is Chrome or Safari, Firefox, or wherever, Opera, whichever browser we want to do the testing on, should be tested properly, and we should get the same results on all the browsers. Also devices, if the software has been made for different kind of devices, it should be working on all devices, and there should not be any UI issues also, and there should not be any of course functional issues also in any of the devices which we are using. And the operating systems, so Windows, iOS, Linux, all the operating system, it should be working well for whichever operating system the software has been made for. And for doing compatibility testing and browser based testing, we can use different tools like Browser Stack, which is very much helpful. In Browser Stack we get an access to use all the browsers in the world, and we can use it. And we can also use different devices. Suppose you don't have an iPhone, so you can use Browser Stack to test on iPhone. So Browser Stack is a very, very useful tool which will help you do all kind of compatibility testing. You can use different browsers, different tools there, and install your, if it is an .apk file, you can install it. If it is a website, you can directly open it on any browser on that Browser Stack and do your testing. So that is how you can do compatibility testing. We already discussed about the performance testing, about load, stress, spikes, endurance, volume. So that is what is done in the performance testing. And for tools, what we can use is load runner and JMeter. Security penetration testing is yet another type of non-functional testing type, and it is also a white box testing type which we discuss, and it is a very important aspect to test security in most of the websites which we are testing, because security is concerned in the vulnerabilities can make our system very much easy to be hacked, and it's very important to test it before actually deploying it. Security testing is yet another genre of testing which is blooming, and people are learning and growing in security domains, and they are becoming security testers who are very much experts in doing security testing. But as functional non-functional QA also, you can learn basics of security leaks, and you can do security testing as well. So restricted file should not be downloadable without appropriate access. These are few examples which have been mentioned. So if an access is required for a particular file in a system, it should have that limit. It should be there should be a denial message in that case. So all these security concerns should be taken care of and should be tested in a way that it is not breached. So we can check sessions that are automatically killed after prolong. So suppose you have added some item in the cart and you are not buying it for a long time, so your cart shouldn't be on hold. So any session which is inactive for a longer duration of time should be killed. So the process should be killed from the backend. In case of secured pages, it should redirect to the encrypted SSL pages only. So these are basic security understanding should be developed and should be tested in any websites which we are actually testing. tools which can be used are these. And crowd testing means, a large number of people are testing together so that the different minds can come up with different concepts, and we can try to find out undiscovered issues, if any. So that is also an important way of doing website testing. So tools like people, that's about the crowd testing. So today in today's session we did talk about functional testing. We talked about what are the different types of functional testing. I will quickly walk you through also. So what we actually test in the functional testing. Then we talked about the processes, what all we should keep in mind while we are doing the functional testing. Then we did a proper understanding of the difference between the functional and non-functional testing type. We talked about some non-functional testing type like performance, load, spike, endurance, volume, scalability testing. And we also discussed about how do we test a website. And what are the types of testing we need to do to test a website, which is functionality, usability, interface, database, compatibility, performance, security, and crowd testing. So these are the different types of testing which we have to perform to say that yes, we have completely tested any web application, any website. So that's all from today's session. We learn a lot about testing in the upcoming sessions. Till then, thank you.